Hi everyone! In today's video I'm going to be trying to make a miniature plant that's similar to this one that sits next to my Tudor doll's house. My first step was to start making the leaves. So I started by mixing together different colours of paint, and this was acrylic paint that I was using, until I was happy with the shade of green. Now as you can see, I had already started this, and I wasn't quite happy with the shade of green that I'd managed to make. Unfortunately, I don't have many colours of acrylic paint left. They've all run out and I've not replaced them, so I did find that I was mixing together lots of different colours until I was happy that I'd got the correct green. And once I was happy with the colour, I mixed in some glossy Mod Podge. And basically, to make the leaves, I was using little droplets of this mixture on top of greaseproof paper. I was just daubing the paint and the Mod Podge mixture into the shape of little leaves, and I was actually adding some of this shade of green onto the leaves that I'd already made, as well as making some new ones. So I was making these little miniature leaves in the same way that I made miniature holly leaves for some decorations for my Tudor doll's house. Here I was just combining the different shades of green to try and make some of the patterns that you see on the leaves. Now I'm actually adding this narration after I'd finished making this miniature plant, so I will just mention here that I wish I'd made some bigger leaves. So these actually were all just a little bit too small. So if I was to do this again, I would make more leaves and I'd make them all bigger. So when they were dry, because I'd worked on top of greaseproof paper, I was able to peel the leaves away. And they had this lovely glossy texture because of the Mod Podge. They were also just the right thickness for a tiny little 12th scale leaf, but they were still quite strong, so I could peel them away without them ripping. My favourite leaves were the ones that had different colours in them, so where I'd mix the different shades of green together. To make the miniature pot, I was actually using a little kit that I was given about 2 years ago at the York Doll's House Fair. I went to a workshop with Jane Harrop, and as part of the workshop she handed out these little kits, and it's been sat in my little box of miniature making materials for a long time, ever since that workshop. So I thought this would be a really good time to use it. So basically in this kit were little circles which you just stick together to make the shape of a plant pot. So I stuck them together using my Yoo-hoo glue, and basically I laid them in size order, from the smallest one to the largest one. Or I could have gone from the largest one to the smallest one. It didn't really matter which way. And once I'd finished making this little plant pot, I decided to make the second one as well, even though I'm only making one plant today. But it means that I've got a spare plant pot for a future miniature make. I left the 2 plant pots to dry, and when they were both dry, it was time to start working on the plant. So I was using these little plant ties for the stalks of the plant. I started by just curving the bottom here to make it stand upright, and then I twisted it so that the stalk would stand vertically, just like this. I added some air dry clay to the bottom of the little plant pot. And then I pressed the stalk into the clay. I topped the plant pot up with more air dry clay so that it held this stalk in place, and then I went back to my plant to have a little look at it, to study it to make sure that my miniature plant looked realistic. I actually realised that there appeared to be more stalks coming out of the soil, so I added a few more to the air dry clay before it dried. The nice thing about using these plant ties is that they have wire inside them, so I could bend them into the position that I wanted them. And I could also easily trim the tops of them using my little wire cutters. Then it was time to add the leaves, but I found that they'd all stuck together in the little pot. They were completely dry and they didn't feel sticky, but they'd just kind of squashed together. So I separated all of them and then started to add them to the stalks. This one was my favourite one because you could see the pattern where the two different shades of green had merged. So I just added a tiny little bit of glue to each leaf and then I stuck it in place. If I was to make this miniature plant again, as well as making the leaves a little bit bigger, I would spend more time when I was making the leaves to add the little patterns and variations in different shades of green, and I would also make a few of the leaves a slightly different shape after going back and studying the real plant. This would mean me buying some extra acrylic paint, I think, because one of the reasons that I didn't add all of the patterns in the leaves was just because I was really finding it difficult to mix up the correct shades of green. I also peeled some of the mixture away from the greaseproof paper that I hadn't shaped into leaves, and I cut this into a shape to just wrap around any joins where I was joining two stalks together. Before the air dry clay dried, I just added a little bit of texture because once this was dry, I wanted to try and make it look like soil. And when it was dry, I mixed together the red, yellow and blue to make a brown colour, again using acrylic paint, but this time I didn't add any Mod Podge. And I just painted over the top of the clay. You might also notice that I also painted the top of the plant pot to make it match the rest of the plant pot, because the top of it was a little bit lighter than the sides. I did add a tiny little bit of green paint to some of the leaves just to try and make some patterns on the leaves. This step wasn't really important, but I thought seeing as the paint was out, I would just add a little extra detail. And I also shaped some of the leaves as well because I found that if I folded them, they did hold their shape quite nicely. So this is how my miniature plant looks. Now, I'm not 100% happy with it, but for my first attempt at a miniature plant, it's alright. I think I might have a second go at making a miniature plant at some point, and I might replace this one, because like I said, it definitely needs much bigger leaves. But for now, it's going to sit here in my doll's house, on the little landing step. Now, I am wondering if I should make a little basket as a plant pot to go around this plant pot. What do you think? Please do let me know in the comments if you think I should make a little mini basket. But yeah, I think I probably am going to make a second plant to replace this one. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and I hope that you have a lovely day. See you next time. Bye!